is Travel Take with
Maggie,
Xana,
and Kathleen. This episode we will be covering stress, time management, and how to handle a busy schedule.
high school is honestly really stressful between schoolwork, sports, family stuff, friends, and sometimes even jobs. It feels like there's always something you're supposed to be doing. And whenever people ask for advice on how to manage everything, the number one answer is always the same. Get a planner, use an agenda, or organize your life on Google Calendar.
But don't get us wrong, that works for a lot of people. Planning your time can be really helpful. But something we realize is that organization doesn't always work the same for everyone, because you can't just plan your day step by step.
Yeah, because life isn't predictable. You might have extra homework, a bad day, unexpected plans, or you're just exhausted. And when everything doesn't go according to schedule, it can make you feel like you failed, even though you didn't.
We've both tried planning out our entire days before, with agendas, hourly plans, all of it, and sometimes it actually made us more stressful. Instead of helping, it felt like we were living through our calendar, and instead of actually living our lives. So it's important to remember you're not supposed to have every second of your life planned out. Some of the best moments happen when they're just spontaneous, like off schedule, when you talk longer with your friends, or take a break when you actually need one.
And yes, unexpected things can be stressful or scary sometimes, but learning to accept that your day won't go perfectly is actually part of managing your time in a healthy way. So instead of trying to control every moment, maybe time management is really about balance, planning what matters, but also leaving room for real life to happen. Okay, so to better understand how planning and scheduling can actually help students, we talked with our school counselor, Ms. Sanutsky.
Hi, I'm Xana, and we're here with Ms. Sanuski, and we're interviewing management and time organization tasks. So, can you put in place as a student to make sure that you have all your work done and all your time is allotted well throughout the week?
Yeah, I always preach using your Google Calendar. I live by my Google Calendar. If something's not in there, then I'm not getting it done. And I always tell my kids it's good to allot time to get things done. Of course, you can't always follow things to a T, but just to do your best. Nobody really uses agendas anymore. I always really used an agenda in college and in high school. When I was in high school, they used to be provided to us. I wish they still were. But I think just writing things down for me also, if I write things down, it's just a way for me to stay on task. So those are two ways that I tell kids to keep their time organized. Really just writing it down in whatever way that works best for you and trying to follow a schedule as best you can.
That makes sense. My next question is for students who maybe work or play sports or have music in addition to heavy course load. How important do you think it is to not overbook yourself and to also make time for outside things like hobbies and other things that you love?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I feel like it's something so many kids just naturally do, like overbooking themselves, like students here who have 0 period and are doing gym at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's cutting off time that they can get additional sleep in. I think sleep is so important, of course, in addition to doing things like your hobbies, but I always push for study halls for kids to use that time to get schoolwork done. I always push for a support block after school for kids to also use that time to get work done. Of course, there's kids that might have a study hall, not use it appropriately, or choose not to have a study hall. But I do think that you have to at least do things that fill your cup. I always say you can't pour from an empty cup. So I think, whether it's on the weekends or having at least one day a week that you're prioritizing doing something that you enjoy, whether it's reading or going to the gym, going on a hike, whatever it might be. I think it's just important to allot that time into your schedule.
That makes sense too. And you talked a lot about study hall and support block. How important do you think it is to have those in school times to take care of work? And how do you think is the best way for students to manage that time?
Yeah, I personally think that it's pretty important, especially for athletes. And people who might do dance after school or musical theater. If you have a packed schedule after school, I think having a study hall is really important. And I always stress for kids, in order to use that time appropriately, to sign out and go to the library to do work. Because if you're in the cafeteria with all of your friends, naturally you're going to want to talk to your friends and hang out with your friends, which is awesome too. But if you use that 40 minutes appropriately, then you'll be able to knock out a lot of schoolwork. Same thing like with support block. A lot of kids may not need the extra help necessarily, but sometimes just sitting in a classroom for accountability. I'm like a huge accountability person, and I always tell kids to put their phones on do not disturb. If you're at home, put it in another room. We're so easily distracted by that. As soon as it goes off, you're going to check it. That's just, the reality of it is we're all guilty of that. So I think it's really important to use that time if you have a study hall. Again, especially if you're somebody with a book schedule. Did I answer all of that?
Yeah, that was a good answer.
Okay.
We wanted to thank our counselor, Ms. Zanuski, for talking with us and sharing those strategies. It was really helpful hearing how scheduling can actually support students instead of adding more stress. But that also sparked another topic we wanted to talk about.
While we were looking through our form, we saw this question, and we think it's a really good one to bring up. The question is being busy sometimes treated like competition? I think this is a really deep question and something no one actually thinks about, but I think it is because sometimes when you say I have so much to do, I have to go to this sport, and then I have to do homework, and then I have to do this for someone, there's always someone that says, oh, that's not a lot, I have to do this. They say more and try and make it a competition and say that their life is harder. And yes, everyone's life is hard. I don't think we should make it a competition because then people are just overbooking themselves. They're stressing themselves out. And for what? One conversation to make it that your life is more stressful? I don't think we should really compete to see whose life is more stressful. It's not a good thing for your mental health or for you. Instead of trying to add more and more to our schedules, maybe time management is really about using the time we already have in healthier ways. And one place that actually starts is the school day itself, like study hall or free periods.
A lot of students see study hall as free time, but it can actually take a huge amount of pressure off later. Even finishing one assignment or starting homework during study hall can mean you're not staying up late doing everything at night. It also helps separate school time from home time. So when you get home from sports or work, you're not starting everything from zero.
One thing that I feel like people don't talk about enough is knowing your limits, because there's so much pressure in high school with clubs, sports, work, academics, and sometimes I think it feels like saying yes to everything means we're being productive, but we're really not.
But real organization sometimes means choosing what matters most instead of trying to do everything at once. Because being constantly busy doesn't always mean being balanced.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. We hope that you've gained some tools to help you manage your time effectively during the school week, whether that's with work or hobbies or sports or anything else. Hopefully you feel a little less stressed. Remember, make life a story worth telling, and your voice matters.
Bye!